I'm Ginny Robertson, founder of the On Purpose Woman Global Community and the founder and publisher of On Purpose Woman magazine. Today, I'm delighted to be here with Lori Pieper to talk about her thought-provoking series in On Purpose Woman magazine. So, welcome, Lori. I'm so glad we finally made this happen. And since we missed our chance to chat about your January, February article, we're going to cover that today, along with the one you wrote for March and April. So to start, I'd love for our viewers to get to know you, the ones who haven't met you yet, because you do write often for On Purpose Woman. You've spoken for our community. And so you've been kind of a big presence on our YouTube channel, but tell those people who may not have had the privilege of meeting you yet, what do you want them to know about you?
I want them to know that I spent 40 years in corporate and I love my job for the most part, but it was very, very stressful. And there are natural means. I found natural means. I got certifications in many different ways to naturally heal myself and keep myself calm in the midst of a storm. And that's what I share with women around the world. And that's what I'm passionate about. So I'm Lori Pieper, architect of joy, and I've been in business for 3 years and I am loving it.
Well, it feels like I've known you way longer than 3 years, and I think maybe 2 years now we've been hanging out together. Okay.
Yeah, 2 years. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, let's explore the series for a minute. So, your series is called Empowered and Unapologetic, Reclaiming Your Joy. And I think it's a powerful title. And so, tell us about the inspiration behind this series and why you think it's an important message for women.
So I am certified as a total well-being coach through the Deepak Chopra Center. And in there, one of the exercises is they introduced us to the wheel of life and the 6 pillars of health. And, we did a lot of work with it, but in my work using that with clients, I realized it was so key to women's transformation to look at things like individually. So if you think
Mm,
about a New Year's resolution, or I'm going to lose weight, or I'm going to, make a change, and we tend to do so much all at one time that we fail. Our,
hmm
our, bad habits are really, really, really difficult to change in bulk. So when we look at the smaller pieces of life and pair it with a smaller piece of well-being, it's a lot easier for us to incorporate that into our lives. And what's amazing is that these little ripples, it's like throwing a pebble in a lake. It's a little ripple, but it ripples far and wide, which means it's not only helping you feel better and happier and healthier, but it's also making everyone around you happier and healthier. And I know that for a fact, not only from my personal experience, but also from what my clients have told me.
Yeah. Well, who doesn't need that? Who doesn't need that? We all can use that, no matter where we are in our lives, how well we think we're doing. We can always use that extra piece of something because joy, we need joy, man. Especially these days. We need to pull on that joy
Yes.
even more than we have in the past. Your January, February article focused on relationships and romance.
Yes.
And they're often intertwined, but they're not the same. So you distinguish that, yeah, relationships, romance is a relationship. So are you hearing that feedback, Lori?
No, I'm not.
Okay, good. Well, maybe it's not being recorded. I did have to stop and ask though, because I'm getting something again, but not consistently. So let's just keep moving forward then.
Okay. Yeah. So when we think of, yes, romance is definitely a relationship. It's a different kind of relationship. It's a specific type of relationship. But we have relationships. If we look at the word relationships, every person we connect with, every person we see is a relationship, and we have a relationship to ourselves.
Hmm.
So a relationship could be anything from the person in front of you in the grocery line to, how you feel about yourself, to that romantic relationship you have with a partner. And I even think of romance with your kids and grandkids, and
Yeah.
because there's that deep connection, that deep love. And when we think about relationships, too often we're looking at the negative sides, and that's our brain. Our brain tries to keep us safe, so it's always pointing out the danger, which is the negative stuff. So when we look at our romances, our relationships, make sure or try to realize that we're all human and we all make mistakes, and you might be angry with someone, but you still have to try and find that common ground, if that
Mm,
makes sense.
it does. It does. Yeah. Well, let's see, relationships and romance are the first two, which I'll call spokes in the wheel of life, right? They're the first two that you're talking about. And one thing I really love about your writing, and I think you've done this with you've done a couple of series for us, is that you also offer journaling exercises to help us go deeper into self-reflection. And your first article included a powerful exercise, which I'm just going to encourage our viewers to go check that out and do this for yourself. From your perspective, which pillars of well-being are tied to or are essential for cultivating healthy relationships?
Actually, I have to look and see what I put in here. All stress management and emotions. Absolutely, duh. So I'm like flipping through here. Um, yeah, stress management and emotions really, really tie together, especially in relationships, because especially in close relationships, because we can get triggered very easily. We
Mhm.
we oftentimes, so Ginny, you and I have known each other for a couple of years, but and if you told me, Laura, I just don't like your style anymore, that would hurt me more than a stranger. Why?
Sure.
Because I honor you, I respect your opinion. So the closer our ties are with the relationship, the more the more we need to really think about our how we're reacting to them. And when we get into stress mode, we get, I like to say, stress makes us stupid. Because physiologically, the blood is going from the rational, compassionate part of your brain to the reactionary part of your brain. So it's natural for us when we're under duress to lash out without even realizing it.
Yeah.
So things like stress management help us to be in that place of heart, that place of love, that place of just being, as opposed to being stressed out and lashing out at people. And it's those, even though when we're stressed out and we might say something we don't mean, even though we say we didn't mean it, oftentimes I've heard people say, well, if you didn't mean it, you wouldn't have said it. But that's not
Yeah.
true either. That's not true
Yes.
either. You could have heard it on the radio. You could have seen it in a movie. You could have heard somebody else tell it to their. So we really have to be aware. And also, the more we can manage our stress, we're in better control of our emotions, and then life is good.
And we can also dig pretty darn deep to find some of those things to talk about. They could have happened 30 years ago, right? And all of a sudden it's like it happened 5 minutes ago. So yeah, it
Yeah.
is very reactionary. And I love that you say that it's because it's a physiological thing. It's not that we're mean people. It's not that we don't care. It's that until we learn how to manage it, it will be in charge.
Yes.
It will be running the
Yeah.
show, right? Yeah.
Yes, yes, there's so much going on when we're in the stress mode. And actually, I'm in the midst of writing a book, and a lot of it is about the stress response and how it negatively impacts us. It has its good points too, but for the
Sure.
most part,
Yeah.
yeah,
So it's
yeah,
just about a matter of learning to just be aware. The awareness is really key, and you help women with
yes,
that. So
yes.
Lori's contact information will be in the text of this video, so be sure and check out. She can do a free chat with you. She's got some great tools on her website, so be sure you check that out too. Let's move on to your March, April article, which the next pieces of the wheel of life that you talk about are career, finances, and spirituality. Now, you shift to, let's see, you start out by posing this great question. What do career and finances have to do with spirituality? But let's start with a personal story that you shared that highlights the difference between a job and a career. Let's
Mm.
start there.
Yeah, so when I was in high school and college, I was a waitress for a breakfast restaurant, and that was a job. I didn't want to do that for the rest of my life. I loved my clients, but I wasn't passionate about doing that for a living, other than to just to get me through school. But when I graduated, so I went to school for computer science. I went to college for computer science, and when I graduated, that was my passion. So that's my career. A career is where you're living your passion. Unfortunately, a lot of times we're not living our passion. We're living someone else's dream. We're living someone else's passion. I know growing up, I'm the youngest of five, and my mom wanted me to be a nun. She said, Lori, you're my last chance for one of my kids to go into into the religious, being a nun or a priest. And I was all for it. I mean, my mom wanted me to do that. I was all for it until I realized that nuns can't kiss boys. And then I was out.
It was a deal breaker, huh?
I was a deal breaker. That was a deal breaker.
Well, yeah.
Hmm.
And so I want to see if you agree with this distinction. Often we think of careers as the higher level jobs, the maybe the better paying jobs, but there's a lot of people in a career that feel like it's a job. And there's other people in what can sometimes be, talked about in disparaging terms, blue collar or, other types of workers who love what they do. That can be a career for them, correct?
That absolutely
Okay,
is.
because it can be a bit
Absolutely.
snobby to kind of make those, distinctions, but I hear it a lot. And I was kind of,
Yes.
I think I grew up hearing that there were certain jobs that were worth more. And I know
Yes.
a lot of women, and I know you do too, who are in careers where it feels like a job and drudgery every day they go to work. They may be making a great salary, they may have great benefits, but they can't wait for the weekend if they get to take off the weekend.
Yes.
And you and I
Yes.
have both experienced that as well.
Oh yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
And that's my target client
Hmm.
because I was there the last 10 or so years of my career. It stopped being a career and started being a job. And so I got through it, and now my passion is to help women who are going through that really find out what is your passion, because we are put on this earth for a reason.
Hmm.
I mean, Mother Teresa, she didn't get paid money, right?
Right.
But that was her career. That was her life's purpose. A
Hmm.
career should be your life's purpose.
Yeah. And, I do have done a lot of work on purpose and with purpose with other people over the years. And I think there's also been this confusion that purpose has to be this mountaintop experience, or it has to be something that is world changing. Or how can my career in finance, for example, reflect my purpose? Well, I realized looking back that while what I was doing, the actual work I was doing, was not really reflecting my purpose, my mentoring of my staff and my making sure that they got treated fairly and that they were trained well, that fed me. That kept me there longer than I would
Yes.
have been there otherwise. So we can find our purpose in little pieces. It's not that the whole thing. I mean, while I feel like my company, my business is my purpose, I don't feel purposeful doing all of it sometimes. You know what I mean?
Right.
Some of it's kind of hard and scary and all of that, but yet so I just want people to get that distinction that you don't have to go seeking for this big idea. It's probably already right there inside of you to start to recognize it, right?
Exactly. And just one quick note, if you are miserable in what you're doing on a daily basis, definitely do a little soul searching, and I can guide you in that,
Yeah.
because then something is not right. You are giving up something that you really need for yourself
Hmm.
somewhere along the lines.
Yeah, I agree with that so much. So what is the connection then between career, finances, and spirituality? We've kind of touched on it some already, but
Yeah, yeah. So purpose, the whole thing is
Mhm.
purpose. And And when we go through, so my program, Empowered and Unapologetic, as we go through the process of looking at different areas of life, we start seeing a little bit of that passion, a little bit more of that passion. And once we understand the passion, and again, maybe my passion is something that's not going to bring any income for me. So I might
Mhm.
have to get a job in order to fulfill my purpose.
Yeah.
But every one of us has a purpose. Some people it's to be a doctor. Some people it's to, work for the Peace Corps or be in the service or be a computer programmer. So whatever that purpose is, but it's in us and our heart, our soul. I interchange heart and soul because
Hmm.
that's where the answers are. We try to make decisions from our brain, and our brain can only go so far. But when it's talking about purpose and what we really, really want from life, that's where we need to seek in the heart, and learning that is huge. Can change your life in a minute.
Yeah. I love what you just said about, if we're in a job or if we're in a career even and we're not feeling purposeful, we can't like make that connection. Go do something on the side.
Yes.
I remember years ago I was doing a workshop on, I think it was like my Getting Out of Your Own Way workshop, and there was this guy, that's back when I had men and women coming to my workshops, and he was a musician and he had a job, but he goes, I really want to play more. I really want to. And I don't know if you have this experience sometimes that you often hesitate to suggest something because you think, of course, they thought of that. This is like a
Yeah.
no-brainer, but not true because we're all thinking different. We pull on different parts of our life and different parts of our brain. So I said, and he wasn't looking to get paid yet. He just wanted to perform and do what he loved. And I said, have you thought about calling senior centers and see if you could go and play, or even assisted living facilities? He lit up, and this is 20 some years ago, and he's still doing that.
Oh, I
Actually,
love
actually
it.
retired from his job, and but he's still out there, and he's getting paid gig. He's gotten paid gigs along the way as well. So,
I
that
love it.
idea of just go do something that, because it does help you get through the week if you're not like feeling as purposeful in your job, doing something that really matters to you.
Exactly.
Also do
And
that. And sometimes it can turn into something else bigger.
yes,
Yeah.
yes. And a quick comment, Jenny, I love how
Hmm.
you responded to him. You didn't say, well, you should do XYZ. You said, have you
Mm,
ever considered?
yeah.
So asking with a question gives them space, whereas when we say, well, you should,
Yeah.
then we're like pushing and it's got a whole different feel and we'll have a whole different reaction.
It sure does, because if anybody says that to me, I just get, even when you just said the words, I felt myself kind of going, a little backing up a little bit, like, what? Well, let me think about that. And so, yes.
Exactly.
And it also gets
Exactly.
them thinking about all the possibilities.
Yes.
Before that,
Yes.
and it's a great point. Thank you for making that. If the should thing is just all about, oh, they're telling me they're an authority figure in my life a little bit right now. Maybe I should think about that. But if you just say, have you thought about it? All of a sudden the wheels are turning on their own. Yeah. Thank
Yes.
you for that. I
Yes.
like that. Yeah. So what pillars of health tie into the career, finances, and spirituality that will help us navigate those wheels of life, those spokes in
Well,
the.
the spirituality is the pillar of health. So
Oh,
spirituality,
okay. Okay.
yes, yes. And it's a very key pillar. That should be your foundation. A lot of people, their spirituality is through, a religion or something like that. My spiritual foundation is in meditation, my Reiki practices. So my yoga practices. So digging into the wisdom of the ages, where we are encouraged to look within in order to make decisions, encouraged to look within and look to our heart versus our brain all the time.
Okay. That
And
makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
yeah, and that helps. So, my meditation practice has been a foundation for a long time. And I know when I get out of that habit, I know because I'm not the calm, smiley person
Mm.
if I go too long without my meditation. And when I'm doing my regular meditation, I am spot on. I feel the energy. I feel my purpose. Things start coming to me. I wrote an article, Manifesting Miracles, and it's all
Hmm.
based upon meditation. And the reason for that is people might poo-poo meditation. That's a technical term, by the way. But as world leader, or no, I shouldn't say world leaders, but leaders like Deepak Chopra have said, prayer is talking to God. You're asking for, $1 million or show me my purpose. But meditation is listening to God. You can't listen if you're always talking. You can't
Mm.
hear if you're always talking. And that's what I'm telling you, the miracles I've manifested, they've bubbled up during meditation. I've been woken up in the middle of the night with these like fabulous ideas that one led to the house that I live in. You know, I set up the layout of my house, and had it built. So all these things come when you are listening. So whether you call it meditation or whatever you call it, being in silence is so important on a
Yeah.
regular basis, even if it's for like 10 minutes a day.
I was going to ask that because I think some people hear meditation, they think I've got to go sit for 30 minutes, an hour. And not only do a lot of people think they don't have the time for that, they also don't think they have the patience for that. And so even 10, especially if you're a super head full, go, go, go woman, 10 minutes can be remarkable. 10 minutes in silence can bring remarkable results, I think. And that's where,
Yes.
like you say, the information comes in, sometimes the ideas, or they'll come in later because you opened up the space for them. So yeah, I'm a fan. I'm not a daily meditator, but I also think I do a lot of walking meditation. I just feel like I'm meditate like while my eyes are open. I don't know if that makes
Yes.
sense or.
It, yes, it
Yeah.
absolutely does. Yoga is a moving
Hmm.
meditation,
Yeah,
walking in
that's true.
nature or
Yeah.
walking, as long as you don't have your phone, the whole time. I see
Right,
people on the
right,
phone getting there. That's exercise, but walking
right.
for listening, for peace is not, you don't have your phone with you.
Hmm.
But
That's
yeah,
right. Right. Well, once again, in your second order, you provide two journaling exercises to help us explore our personal relationship with those areas of life. So I really love that you include some really practical ways for us to sit and absorb what you've written and also see how it fits into our lives, to see what we're really up to. Because until we get quiet and maybe ask ourselves some of the questions that you suggest, that stuff stays in there. We don't know. And we can't, I don't think we can shift and make changes that unless we're really aware of what we're already believing and thinking and acting upon on a regular basis. So you make it quite easy for us, Lori, to go in there and,
thank you.
and do some internal work. So thank you for
Thank
that.
you. And it is really important because not only can we not make that appropriate shift that we need for who we're supposed to be in this world, but also that's what causes a lot of distress in our lives when we're living a life different from what we're supposed to be. And the
Mhm.
universe, God, the universe, your God of your understanding, will do things to try to turn you back to your purpose. So the more you listen, the easier life gets.
I agree with that too. I want to jump back. I just had a thought. The title of your series is, let's see, where is it? Oh,
Empowered and
never mind. Yes.
unapologetic. Yes.
Okay. I want to just go back to that a minute because the empowered and unapologetic, you put those two words together for a reason. And my hunch is that it's because women sometimes need support in moving forward because they see maybe the time for themselves as sort of selfish or finding their power, finding their voice. Maybe some people might not like it. So is that why you're adding this, be unapologetic in your quest for these things and to have more joy in your life? Have you seen that out there?
Absolutely, absolutely. And I would say that's probably the number one reason why women aren't making decisions that are in alignment with their heart and soul,
Mm,
because they're afraid of what people will say or that people won't, and then they'll have to explain and on and on and on. I worked with a young lady a couple years ago, and her dream, she knew her passion was to travel the world and live in different countries
mm.
teaching English or being an au pair, whatever, she had many different talents. But her family kept saying, "You're crazy. Grow up." They kept telling her to
Oh,
grow up.
wow.
And, we were just like, well, what is your passion? Then you've got to do it. And she's done it. She's doing it. And she's so happy now. She's finding her dream and living her dream. And that's what unapologetic is all about. You don't have to agree with my choices because they're not your choices. They're my choices. And for
Yeah.
good or for bad, I have to follow my choices.
I've talked a lot over the years about sometimes well-meaning people, her parents were probably well-meaning. They thought they were well-meaning, and they were, transferring their fears onto her. And they had a design for her life already in place that they wanted her to live out. And I remember when I decided to leave my corporate career when I turned 40 and go work for the transformational seminar company at a 60% pay cut and not as many benefits. And everyone in my world, everyone in this part of my world thought I had lost my mind, including most of my family. The people I had connected with over here in the transformational world were like, "Oh, wow, that's so brave. I can't believe you're doing that. How can I support you in it?" And it was so interesting because had done enough work on myself that I could see where both groups were coming from. And it wasn't that they didn't want me to be happy over here. They just had these ingrained ideas that you don't leave a good paying job with benefits. I've had Canadian friends who've said to me, we feel sad for you Americans because you sell your soul for healthcare, because you're going to get healthcare on your job. When you're talking about, your client, I had this thought too, the more we can get in touch with this kind of thing for ourselves, especially when we're younger, the better parents we will be as well, because then our children will get to live in that space of making their decisions, and again, as a parent, we also know when they're doing something that we really believe would be harmful and we try to guide them. But when it's just
Sure.
an adventure that we just kind of go, "Oh, I would never do that." It's okay if you'd never do it because they're not you. And so I knew it has helped me to be a better parent and let go more of the outcome of just, well, let me know if you need help with that. Let me know if you need some support with that.
Right.
And just sort of a hands-off kind of thing until it's
Right.
needed. So yeah.
And even if something doesn't go the way you intended, always ask yourself, what was I supposed to learn? Or who
Yeah.
was I supposed to meet? There's something there that either
Hmm.
you learned this isn't the right path for me, or you learned, okay, I did it that way, it didn't work. No, let's try this way. And oh, by the way, I met this wonderful lady, Ginny Robertson, and she's been a gift to me. So we learn.
Yeah. And Lori, I think this whole series of articles and the wheels of life and the pillars of health, they all tie into that one thing you just said, and that is that when we are utilizing these things in our lives, we can look at life from that perspective of, well, that didn't turn out the way I visioned it. However, look at this, rather than, well, that sucked and I'm never doing that again. And then
Yeah,
just falling back into a deep hole that we can look at it and go, learning experience. Maybe I'll try that a different way next time, or maybe I've just decided that's not for me. It's okay to try things and decide it's not for us. We don't have to do something the rest of our lives because we went to college to learn how to do it, but we get put into that box that says, and that was the other thing I heard, your education will be wasted. And I'm like, education's never wasted.
exactly.
And so, yeah, you're bringing up all kinds of really cool points for me today. So thank you so much for that. Okay, before we wrap up here, how can our viewers who want to know more about you reach out and connect with you? Again, we're going to have all that information in the chat, but just give us your website information and all.
Sure. You can go to journeytoinnerjoy.com. So you've got everything there. I've got my events, upcoming events, my programs, all of that stuff there. And I have a resources page where I have some free 2-minute meditations. I just added a workbook called the Empowered Workbook. So
Nice.
giving you scenarios and ways that you can journal about, well, what are some ways that you can overcome this? What are some ways that you can set boundaries in this situation? So it's really kind of fun. So I encourage people to go grab that. And if you have any feedback on, I would love to hear it. You can email me at lori@journeytoinnerjoy.com. And
Okay,
let's
all that information, yeah, is the text of this video and also in the article. So don't forget to go read Lori's article because she wrote a bunch more stuff that we didn't talk about here. And so you can go that link is also in the text of the video, but it's my website, which is OPWGC. That stands for On Purpose Woman Global Community, opwgc.com/magazine. Or if you just want to go to opwgc.com, you can also find out about our community, our Zoom gatherings for women entrepreneurs, and all of that, which are free. So, Lori, anything coming up you want to share before we wrap this up?
Yes, download the magazine, this month's magazine, and read Ginny's story. It is amazing. I forget the
It
name of it, Jenny, but oh my gosh, that just blew me away.
was about interbeing.
Interbeing, yes,
Yes,
yes.
yes.
I mean, it really gets to the root of things. Yes.
Thank you. And if you don't know what that means, if you're viewing this, I didn't know what it meant either when I was asked to speak about it. So that's I had to learn and then see how it applied to my life. And so go check that out. Thank you for that, Lori. I appreciate it. But you also have a program coming up, don't you?
I do. It's called Empowered and Unapologetic, the Joy of Being You. And it is taking essentially it's taking this series of articles and it's making it practical. You will be held accountable as much as you wish to be.
Mhm.
But it is a transformational. I call it an 8-week program, but it's 7 weeks of group coaching, and then you get one free session, private coaching session with me. And we
Nice.
go through all of this and more because I bring in Ayurveda into it. You'll understand your Ayurvedic profile and how to use that to help you make decisions. So I'm bringing in so much of what I've learned in the 10 years trying to find how to survive corporate. And it's really, as a matter of fact, one of my clients, the husband of one of my clients, came up to me and said, Lori, I don't know what you did. She went through this program. Lori, I don't know what you did, but my wife is so much happier.
Mm,
And she set boundaries for him.
interesting. So apparently he needed that too.
Yes,
Because he can't see her happiness if he isn't feeling better in it as well. So that's really great.
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Well, I want to get a final thought from you before we wrap up, but I want to give you a final thought from me or something that you kind of you triggered this little memory. I grew up Methodist, but in a community, I had a lot of Catholic friends when I was little. And at that age, whatever that age is, when they're all going for their first Holy Communion, they get to buy those beautiful white dresses and they wear veils. And I wanted so much to do that. And then they all wanted to be nuns. I think it's around the age of 7 or so, is it? That starts. I don't
Yeah.
remember. And
Yeah.
and so I decided that I wanted to be a nun as well. And I announced that to one of my friends who was Catholic. And I said, I'm going to be a nun too. And she got very emphatic with me. She goes, you can't be a nun. And I went, why not? She goes, for one, and this is a 7-year-old, for one, you're not Catholic. And for two, because you're not Catholic, you're going to hell. So she she had heard some of that, but I think she was also paraphrasing a bit and making her own things up. But I remember being so devastated about, the hell part didn't bother me because I didn't even understand what that was about, but it was I can't go to, I thought I had got to go to nun school with all my friends or something. There was a nun school that we would go to, but yeah, it is interesting the ideas that we have when we're little kids. And I'm sure all their parents wanted them to be nuns as well, because that was just kind of a thing back then. Yeah, nuns and priests. Yeah.
Yes, yes, yeah.
But let's have a final thought for that encompasses all of this that you want to leave our viewers with.
Really, honestly, be true to yourself. When you listen, things will bubble up. I really want to do this. I really want to do this. And when they pop up, don't just poo-poo them. Don't just say, "Oh, I can't do that." Really think about it. Maybe write it down. Maybe you don't have time to think about it right now, but write it down and then go back to it. Because this that could be your purpose. That could be the difference maker in your life between drudgery and living some true joy in your life. And that's what I want for everybody, to live the kind of joy that we are put here on this earth to live.
Beautifully said. Thank you so much for that. And I want to remind everyone that the new issue of On Purpose One magazine will be out on May 1st. It will be on our website. If you're over there poking around on the website, sign up for our email list. This way you will get the magazine in your inbox on May 1st. You don't have to remember to go look for it. It'll be delivered to you. And also you'll get information about our free Zoom meetings every month. So Lori, thank you so much. And thank you for sharing your insights and your wisdom, your words, your voice. I truly appreciate you and all the contributions that you make to the On Purpose Women Global community. Thank you.
Thank you, Jenny. Thank you for the On Purpose Woman community, period, because it is an amazing, amazing group of women that you've gathered together.
Thank you. And I'll just add, for those of you who don't know, this is our 25th anniversary month that
Yeah.
I've been doing this. So yay for us, yay for all of us. So thank you all for watching the Real Women, Real Purpose talk show. And for more inspiring interviews with amazing women living their lives on purpose and making their unique impact and sharing their gifts with the world, visit our YouTube channel, which is also in the text of this video. Thanks for watching.